Pleasant morning to each and everyone. Welcome again to our subject, Government Accounting. And our discussion for this day is all about financial assets. And these are the different learning objectives. Number one, define a financial asset and give examples. Number two, account for cash and cash equivalents. Number three, account for receivables and account for investments. So, how do we define financial instrument? It is any contract that gives rise to both a financial asset of one entity and a financial liability or equity instrument of another entity. And how do we define financial asset as a financial instrument? Is any asset that is cash, an equity instrument of another entity, a contract right to receive cash or another financial asset from another entity, a contractual right to exchange financial instruments with another entity under conditions that are potentially favorable, or a contract that will or may be settled in the entity's own equity instruments. So these are examples of financial assets: cash and cash equivalents, receivables, investments in equity and debt securities, derivative assets. Initial recognition: a financial asset is recognized when an entity becomes a party to the contractual provisions of the instrument. So how do we define asset again? So I hope you remembered what we mean by asset po. Then I know you know already what we mean by financial assets. Financial assets are initially measured at fair value plus transaction costs, except for financial assets at fair value through surplus or deficit whose transaction costs are expense po. So maybe in the past you already know what you mean by investment in trading and investment in available for securities, for sale securities. And you know already po how do we recognize financial asset at fair value plus transaction cost, and that one, when do you recognize that as expense? Transaction costs are incremental costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition, issue, or disposal of a financial instrument. Cash comprises cash on hand, cash in bank, and cash treasury account. So there are different classes of cash. Unreleased and canceled checks. Ayan. So how do we enter that? Debit cash in bank, local currency current, credit accounts payable. So it will be, again, go back to payable since that is unreleased and canceled checks. Canceled checks, still voided or spoiled, are reverted back to cash. Yan po siya. So I hope na po natin guys. Yan, prior period debit, accumulated surplus, credit accounts payable. Petty cash fund. The petty cash fund of a government entity is maintained using the impress system. So ang ginagamit po natin is impress system, not fluctuating system. Sufficient to defray recurring petty expenses for 1 month. So petty is yung mga, what's that again, small disbursement guys, na mas effective siya compares if check po ang gagamitin guys. Used for disbursements not exceeding 15,000 per transaction. Ayan, kapag lalampas, iba-voucher mo na guys. Replenish as soon as disbursement reach at least 75% or as needed. Kung kailangan na guys, at least 75% or sabi po niya as needed guys. Accounting for cash shortage or overage po. The disbursing officer is liable for any cash shortage, while any cash overage that he cannot satisfactorily explain to the auditor is forfeited in favor of the government. That he cannot satisfactorily explain. Kung may cash overage daw, pupunta na kay government ba, guys. So, sino naman po ang may liability if kulang guys, si disbursing officer? For example, cashier pong nagkamali or siya pong may responsibility. So, si cashier po ang magbabayad po. Okay? So, due from officers and employees, advances for 2 for shortages, guys. For overages, cash collecting officer, miscellaneous income. Pero mapupunta kay government po yung overages, guys. If hindi niya po alam kung kanino po dapat ibalik, so mapupunta po siya. Bank reconciliation, a government entity prepares monthly bank reconciliations for each of the bank accounts it maintains using the adjusted balance method. Ayan, napag-aralan niyo po sa financial accounting niyo po yan or FAR, tama po ba ako? Financial accounting reporting, guys. Na dapat you need to reconcile not just the cash, but all the accounts that can be seen in our financial statements. Cash equivalents, only debt instruments acquired within 3 months before their scheduled maturity date can qualify as cash equivalents. So bago po siya mag-mature, ayan, you need to acquire that within 3 months kasi hindi po siya makakwalify as cash equivalents, guys. Receivables are initially measured at fair value plus transaction cost and subsequently measured at amortized cost. Ano yung receivables again, guys? Yung mga pautang mo, guys. Categories of financial assets. It can be financial asset at fair value through surplus or deficit, held to maturity loans and receivables available for sale financial assets. Examples of letter A, investments in quoted stocks or bonds. For B, investment in bonds and other debt securities to be held until maturity. Accounts, notes, loans, receivable, investment in stocks or bonds not classified under A to C. Initial measurement for A po, fair value. For B, fair value plus transaction cost. For C, fair value plus transaction cost. For D, fair value plus transaction cost. So yun po yung sinasabi ko kanina that you need to add transaction cost available for sale financial assets, guys. Subsequent measurement, fair value changes in fair value are recognized in surplus or deficit. For B, amortized cost. For C, amortized cost. For D, fair value changes in fair value are recognized in equity. Derivatives. Derivative is a financial instrument or other contract that derives its value from the change in value of some other underlying asset or other instrument po. So ito po ay nagbabago ang kanyang value po. Like for example, guys, mga transactions related to, di ba may mga nakikipag-transact ngayon, pero ang value po niya mag-iba po in the near future po. So pwedeng magkaroon ng gain, pwedeng magkaroon po ng loss, guys. Its value changes in response to the change in an underlying. It requires no initial net investment or only very minimal initial net investment, and it is settled at a future date po. Ayan. So I hope naintindihan niyo po ang ating lesson for this day po. So as I told you, this is only a review. So yung ating face-to-face discussion, so mas detailed po siya compares dito, guys. So I hope you've learned something about our lesson for this day. And any question po, you can comment down so that I can assess po and I can answer po at my best po yung ating mga katanungan. Again, I will send to you our activities for this lesson po. So that ends our lesson for this day. Thank you again and God bless you.